we have everybody automatically muted. So in the Zoom webinar, if you want to ask a question, you'll see at the bottom of your screen a little Q&A icon. And you can post any questions throughout the webinar that you have there. We won't be using the raise your hand feature, so post any questions that you have in that Q&A icon chat box. Chat icon, we've opened this up to everyone in the meeting, so please use that, share with each other. Make sure you post your questions in the Q&A because that's where we will see them, but sharing information among your fellow attendees, do that in the chat box. We're also going to be sharing a recording of this video. Anyone who's registered will receive a recording and the worksheets that we're walking through today via email. So welcoming two other coaches with me on the screen, I've invited Ryan and Jason to join me today to give even more value, and they're going to be jumping in throughout today's webinar to share. I also wanted to say that we have a message from Andy Bailey. He could not be here with us today, but he has a video that he wants to play with you all, so I will play that now.
Hey, good morning. This is Andy, and I really wanted to be a part of the presentation today that Jennifer taking you guys through. I got called into a company stuff she's going to be working with you guys on. So got to get in there and work with them on this morning. But I did want to welcome you to this, and I was reminded this morning, I was out for a run, and that's something we all need to be doing, is keeping up our exercise, obviously. And I was reminded of this story of cows and buffalo. And on the plains of the western U.S., there are these massive, massive amounts of land and huge, huge mountains on all sides. And there's cows and there's buffalo that kind of roam around these areas. And every now and then these massive storms start rolling in over the top of these mountains. And the cows and the buffaloes obviously can see those storms. The cows act one way, the buffaloes act another. The cows kind of huddle together and get really close to one another, and they kind of freeze. They don't move, and they allow the storm to pass over the top of them. Where by contrast, the buffalo, they get organized, they get in a line, and they run as fast and as hard as they can directly into the storm. And the storm passes much more rapidly that way. They get through it quicker than the cows. And I think it's a time right now that we all need to be thinking about being buffalo, getting organized, getting our teams organized, getting in our lines, and frankly, getting a little bit pissed off about this and running as fast and hard as we can directly into it, both looking at ways to mitigate, so looking for the opportunity that's in the storm. So Jennifer and the Petra team, you're in good hands. They're going to take great care of you today. They're going to lead you through some information, give you some tools that we've been working on to create a Petra Coach for the last week or so. They'll probably invite you into some other things that we have going on. I'm available. They'll give you how to get in touch with me. Follow me on social media, whatever that looks like. We're here to do everything we can to ensure that we're all buffalo together. Have a great day.
All right. Andy, with the inspiration this morning. Sorry about the choppy video. Everyone's working from home, and I think everyone's experiencing some low Wi-Fi, but I think the sound went through just fine. I'm hearing from CEOs, how am I supposed to prepare for this when I have no idea what's going to happen? And a lot of companies have not planned for something like this on this scale. So just a reminder, team, it's time to prepare, not panic. It's not too late to prepare. We've got to come up for air, get your team together, and walk through what we're going to talk about today. So this work is not going to be done in vain. You will use this again, whether it's a tornado, an earthquake, a terror attack, an illness, or what we like to joke around Petra is the beer truck. And CEOs, you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to shoulder this all by yourself. What we know is that when you reach out to your team, they are more than happy to help, and it will blow you away with the work that they will go do for you to mitigate the impacts this is having on your business. So we're going to share today 3 ways to plan ahead in the unexpected evolution of COVID-19. The first way that we're going to share is talking about scenarios. So what a scenario does is it tells a story. Frequently used in the military, it's a future state exercise where you envision different scenarios and how they might play out so you can adapt quickly under pressure and changing circumstances. This is much more manageable to deal with when you are dealing with uncertain futures, and it creates a framework for how you might respond. So the key here is to not just to discuss these scenarios, but also to document them and share them with your team. So we've come up with a worksheet to help you. It's called the Adaptive Crisis Checklist, and I've pulled it up on the screen here now. What we want to do here, and what we have done here, is we've listed some scenarios that your team might want to consider planning for. What I don't want you to do is be overwhelmed by this long list of scenarios. We don't have to plan for all of them. What it does help you do is identify the most important things. So I encourage you to use this with your executive team, and I'll run you through really quick how to use it, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into a couple of these as an example. So first, what this scenario checklist does is it has you rate on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being something that we should not be concerned about right now, and 10 being, if we don't mitigate this, we might not be in business. And so think about this through the lens of all of these may be important to your team. What we're trying to do here is determine which are the highest priority to go work on right now. So think about the scores in the context of, if this is a low priority, give it a score of 0 to 3, moderate priority, score of 4 to 7, high priority, an 8 to a 10. And remember, this is not a ranking, it's just you scoring them individually. And each individual on your team would score this without commentating, no color commentary at first, because we don't want to have there be groupthink. We want everybody to come to the table, and at the end, with their scores, and at the end, the bottom of that worksheet on the back page, which we'll share with you after the webinar, is a place where every person can summarize their top 5. You'll collect those top 5 from each person in the room and see where the most heat is. Did everyone rank the first thing on the list higher than an 8? Well, guess what? That's probably a big deal. That's probably something you want to go work on. So what you'll do when you identify the ones that your team all agrees or where the most heat is that you want to go work on, you'll start discussing your risk factors and your response. And the reason we did it this way is that so you aren't overwhelmed by all the scenarios, and you can gather a team together and easily and quickly go through and identify some of the things that you need to be planning for. So asking Ryan and Jason to jump in here, let's dive into some of these scenarios and let's walk through 1 or 2 of them. Ryan?
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I'll jump in. So one of these on here is, we have a drop in our workforce of 30%. How will we manage this? So I know that that's something that many of us haven't considered in detail prior to an event such as this, and some of us are already experiencing that ourselves. I work with an organization that does catering to schools and childcare centers, and you can imagine, with those being closed, they're looking at this type of event. So what we did over the weekend using this worksheet is we went through and we said, this is a really big potential risk for us. And so in advance, we worked together and drafted out what that letter of communication would look like, and built out a plan of how that would be communicated and what potential options there are to either furlough some potential employees, lay them off, and then whatever those options would be to bring them back, to potentially defer compensation, or ask and see if anybody's interested in taking a reduced compensation offering in the interim. And the act of going through that brought together several ideas and got the entire executive team aligned around how this needs to be communicated and what steps need to be taken to move forward should it occur.
That's
Thanks, Ryan.
awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I've got one of the statements on here is, what happens if government regulations force you to close your business? What does that look like for 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and 8 weeks, etc.? One of the companies I work with is in the hospitality industry. And when we did this, they put that as a 10. And Sunday, it became a 10 when they were forced to close all 33 locations. And so what we've done is we started working on a cash flow model that says, okay, let's reduce our expenses and get extreme, because we said, let's go to the end of June. And how do we extend our business life to the end of June and what that's going to look like? When we looked at all the different options of how do we get cash or how do we save cash. So this includes, they had to let go of their hourly staff, knowing that it was going to probably take at least 6 weeks to open. And from that, we said, okay, where else should we go? We looked at rent options. We've gone to the landlords. We've looked at loan options, including the SBA and their existing lender. So the idea is to build a model that flows that out as long as you can.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of scenarios here that are going to prompt some really strong discussion. Just keep in mind, guys, it's important to plan, not solve when you're thinking through these things. It's your job to identify which to work on as a team. Start working on it individually after, like, go solve it, and after you've decided these are the most important things. So picking the top 5, maybe more if you have a bigger team and you feel like you can handle it right now. And then once you've written and agreed upon what the plan is, assign those out to people, and then come back and meet often to update the team on how you're working toward this. And then once you've done those top 5, go next to the next highest thing. Any other thoughts on that, Ryan or Jason?
Just one quick one. I've been answering some of the questions that are coming in.
Yeah.
As you guys have questions as they come in, please go ahead and submit those through the Q&A option, as Jennifer mentioned at the beginning of this. We'll answer those either directly via chat as needed, or we can bring them up, vocally on this call live as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to help you guys as much as we possibly can. So as we're going through it, we'll be answering questions, not at the end, but throughout. So please pop those in the Q&A box. We'll be monitoring those. So something else to remember, don't stress over making this entirely correct, okay? One major purpose of the stories and the scenarios is to give yourself and your colleagues something to respond to. Working on these in a way that aligns your actions with your priorities, knowing that these might shift in a very quick environment right now. So making sure that you are constantly reviewing and updating and changing and communicating with your team, which we'll be talking about communication at the end of the call today. I'd stress too that it doesn't have to be about pulling back and making cuts. It can also be looking for opportunities. We are working with some organizations where business is actually booming right now, and they need to streamline and also plan for the future as well, that they were not prepared for. So maybe you've wanted to eliminate or change a certain service or product that isn't working for you anymore. Maybe it didn't have a high enough margin. Maybe your website is down because so many people are buying things from you right now because you serve a need in this time. This will give you the opportunity to do that. So want to make sure we're thinking on both sides. It doesn't always have to be defense. It can also be offense. To close, effective crisis management requires sound decision making. You got to be able to do this under pressure, and the right resources to respond to a business critical event like this are what you need. So consider how you're going to respond and document it. Identify where you need to act right now, what you're going to prioritize, what you're going to fast track, and go get it done. The good news is, using a checklist like this, you've actually already discovered half of our second way to plan for this unexpected turbulence. So moving into that second tool, we've shared a short-term SWOT analysis. And you guys might be familiar with SWOT analysis already. We use this in strategic planning, looking forward 1 to 3 years out. And it's important to look at those 4 areas of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now we've got to shorten that and look at the next 30 to 90 days. We've got to get very clear on what we need to do to see around the curves. And then again, reviewing this more frequently for the time being. So what this exercise will do is define the current state of your business based on those 4 elements: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this worksheet is going to help you, again, think of both offensive and defensive strategies. View these through the lens of what's going on right now. For example, what is a strength that we want to protect right now in the next 90 days? And this will be different than maybe a 1-year SWOT analysis. So just keep that in mind. You're probably going to be thinking more short term, and it might not be something that's the same as what you would put on a normal SWOT analysis. So let's go through these. I'll lead you guys through each section of this document, and we'll talk a little bit about examples and how to use it with your team. So that first one, strengths, right? So what are the internal capabilities, attributes, skills, or assets that are within your control to ensure you're protecting more than ever in this short-term period? These are internal, so we have control over them. And that means if we have control over them, we can protect them. So coaches, we were talking about some examples about this in preparation for this call. What are some things that you want to share with our attendees today that they may want to think about protecting in the next 30 to 90 days?
Yeah, so one of them, it can be looking at it as a way of protecting and also just something that's actually there. So one of them is I've had where leadership teams have already agreed before they let people go that they're going to take pay cuts and reduce their salaries. It's a strength because you're finding additional cash flow. Other companies are finding different sources of money. Those are strengths because you want to look and say what's going to help carry us through this is another lens to think about. Right. So as we all go through this together, what's going to help us get from where we are to where we need to be? And that's really the strengths you're looking for in detail.
So it's a great point, Jason. I've had a couple teams doing the same types of things, of having open conversations amongst each other and saying who here can take a reduced salary temporarily, and some people are volunteering to take several weeks or even a couple months to support the organization. Similarly, I think it's important that, as we were talking before about what do we need to do if we have a 30% reduction in workforce, looking at the opposite side of that and saying who is absolutely most critical. So I have an organization that's actually launching a new product line through a website as a result of this crisis. And so they identified in going through this that their web developer and their IT team on the back end is absolutely a strength, that they can get this done quickly, and they have to make sure they're protected in addressing any needs that they have first and foremost, because they're the most critical right now and as they move forward with that new service that they're offering.
Yeah, both really awesome shares. If you are able to chat in the chat box, I'd love for you guys to share with other attendees what you feel like your strengths might be that you want to protect. And through sharing that, you might be able to help somebody else think of something. So important to share what we can, share our knowledge with everyone today, and we'll all be better for it. So looking at the next section of the worksheet are weaknesses. Again, these are internal factors that we can control. Even if you feel like they might not be something you can control, are there more immediate weaknesses that we can work on to lessen or eliminate them right now? If you've already completed the adaptive crisis checklist that we just talked about, you've probably already identified some weaknesses, so it makes this a little bit easier. So jumping into some examples of weaknesses that we might want to mitigate, eliminate. So we want to eliminate a weakness. An example here is communication, right? So we might say that right now communication is a weakness because we are unable to stand at the water cooler, drop by somebody's desk, or see them face to face walking down the hallway, or meet face to face even. So I want to encourage you to make sure that you get a lot of clarity around that. So provide very detailed and specific things here on your SWOT analysis, and say, instead of communication between remote teams is lacking and is slowing us down. That gives me a lot more clarity about what is wrong with our communication, so we can go eliminate it and do some things to make it better. Jason, Ryan, do you have anything to share here on weaknesses?
Yeah, I've got a company that's a manufacturing company, and everybody works in tight quarters, and their demand is still very high, so they're continuing to produce. So the issue is, how do they move people apart? So when we look at it, the weakness was team working way too close together. And so they then went through and they actually laid out, to solve it, they went out and laid out yellow tape. We are boundaries basically to keep people separated. They moved some equipment to make it available so that people didn't feel like they were on top of each other the way they were previously working. And so they were looking at and saying, okay, once again, here's a weakness. What's going to be the way to solve it, right? So identifying it, and writing it away that provides the clarity is really what's critical.
It's a good example, man. I love the yellow tape there. That's cool. I was thinking about this, and I work with an IT consulting firm who's been growing really rapidly, and their strength historically has been their marketing efforts. And so, to Jennifer, to your point earlier about how sometimes our SWOT that we would normally have in our traditional strategic planning rhythm may change or need to be changed as a result of this current short-term crisis. So that marketing and their specific conversion rates are a strength on their traditional SWOT. It's moved to a weakness right now because of the time and resources they're investing in it, and they're immediately not seeing fruits from that labor. So we identified that a weakness for them was how much money and energy and time they're putting into marketing. When they can do that, we can shift that to supporting their core function and their strength of the relationships they have with current clients. So they actually added the roughly $10,000 a month that they're spending through different agencies and different marketing efforts as weaknesses, and through that identified ways that they could limit those spends to only what's absolutely most critical to keep those relationships ongoing.
Two really awesome examples. Thank you guys for sharing those. All right, let's move on to what are external, things that we cannot control. So because we cannot control them, opportunities and threats, we either want to mitigate a threat because we cannot eliminate it like a weakness, or go pursue an opportunity. So even though it is in the order of opportunities and then threats, Jason, I learned this tip from Jason, doing threats first. Because when you work through this with your team, they might be limited in thinking about opportunities because the threats are just the only thing they can think of. So getting those out in the open and discussed with your team so they can focus on opportunities later. So starting with threats, we want to mitigate a threat. What threat exists externally that is beyond your control, that is hurting or could hurt your ability as an organization to operate or to be more profitable. Threats cannot be fully eliminated, but you can take steps to mitigate their impact. And I think a lot of us are living in this world right now. So if you've already completed that adaptive crisis checklist, you've probably already identified some of your threats as well. So going through these, I'm asking Ryan and Jason to share again, are there examples that you can share to help our attendees think more about what these threats might look like?
I kind of mentioned one earlier, but a threat to an organization is the length of a shutdown, right? They don't have control over how long they're shut down. So it's a real threat to the organization. And so they need to find ways to mitigate that. Another company I work with hasn't felt it yet, but it's very concerned about supply chain distribution. It's very important for them to get their product to be able to to remarket and to resell, and their product is still in demand, but they're very concerned about the supply chain. So right now they're working on some very solid strategic plans and contingency plans, I should say, on how can they find a new supply chain and keep everything flowing as smooth as possible. They understand there's probably gonna be some disruption, but what does that really look like?
Right.
That's good, man. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. So I work with a general contractor in the greater Nashville area. And what they have as a current threat is the restriction of access to their job sites. Currently, they're still allowed to go to job sites, and they have other threats on there around safety and health of their workers in lieu of this crisis that they've addressed. The specific one to reference is in other areas, Boston specifically, they have the government has restricted access to commercial and construction job sites. So on theirs, they literally put the government restricting access to job sites. And as we all know, they cannot eliminate that threat. There's nothing they can do in the face of that happening. What they are doing is they're reviewing their contracts and going back to their clients to have discussions in the event of this happening. What does this look like? How do we adjust accordingly? And then keeping in constant communication with their client points of contact around what's the latest updates they're hearing.
That's I think something that a lot of people are dealing with right now, right? That they're possible, and the threat of it might be happening. So it's important for us to think about supply chain. Do we have spare parts in stock? You know, work with a manufacturer who luckily supplies the power industry and the feed mill industry, and so they're essential business. But then they started thinking about we have facilities that might need to have maintenance done. Do we have spare parts in place? If we cannot get those, let's go ahead and order what we think we need the most, and get that, and make sure that those are in stock. So that's a way to solve a threat that a supply chain might be threatened. We have a question from Chip. Thanks, Chip. Coach Chip, what's an example of a threat that came as a surprise? Ryan, Jason, you want to help out? I mean, I think some of these, shelter in place kind of came as a surprise to at least the U.S.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. I've got a company I work with that they were not expecting, it hasn't happened to them yet, but they were not expecting all of the shelter in place efforts that are happening in areas like California and in areas of New York, right? And so they've started to address that and have conversations about what that could look like and what they could do if their drivers can't deliver their products to customers because, quite frankly, they're not allowed to go out of their homes. So that's a good example. Great question, and a good example of one that came up by surprise based off of observing other parts of the country.
Yeah, and we're going to be living in this world for a little while. We need to be mindful of how we are communicating, how we are thinking through these. If somebody comes up with an idea, making sure we're sharing it. Have we thought about this? Sharing those on your daily huddles. We're going to be sharing that here in a little bit about communication again. But using your team to help you think through what could be a surprise is a great idea. So it doesn't have to just be on the executive team. It doesn't just have to be on the CEO's shoulders to come up with the plans for these. We can use the team to help us. Jason, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and also when you get the checklist, and people have asked, are we going to be sending this out? We will be sending out everything in a PDF plus a recording of this to everybody and anybody that would like it. So you'll see what we're working with. But a lot of there's 20 different questions and statements on the crisis checklist, and the idea is really to help you look to see beyond and look at your blind spots of what potential risks are that you really aren't thinking about. So the idea behind using this is it'll help you identify those potential surprises that you're looking at.
Absolutely. Good questions. Again, I'd encourage you to chat with your fellow attendees if you're thinking of something that might be helpful to someone else. So pop those in the chat box. Questions go in the Q&A box that comes straight to us, the panelists.
Jennifer, on that note, Philip just submitted a question around equality of compensation. Is this discipline out the window specifically? How do we approach each associate's pay reduction separately, or do we do it separately? Some can afford even no pay, and others cannot afford any reduction at all. Do we drop compassion and simply one decision to suit all? And he's in about a 15-employee company. What thoughts do you guys have on that?
My first thought is, I understand the compassion. I think you have to look at the long-term viability of the company and the issues, what it's going to take to carry you through. If there are people that are willing to take cuts, and if you feel that's appropriate, then absolutely. There's definitely laws on what you can do for exempt employees. So it's not just straightforward. It's really an ask if they're willing to take the cut. And if they are not, then you can't. But obviously, at that point, you have to look at, long term and say, what is, doing a cash flow, what is this really going to look like? And what do I need to do to protect the company? And that might, unfortunately, end up reducing some people. It might create different opportunities also. So I don't think there's a one answer for everything. I think it's case by case. You have to look at it and say, really understanding it and understand your team, understand the dynamics. Once again, one of the things we always do at Petra Coach is doing a talent assessment and really looking at who are the key people in the organization and who are those aren't. And unfortunately, at some point, that might be an area where you have to look and say, who are the people that really need to be here, and who are the people that unfortunately might be dispensable.
Yeah, I'll also share a resource. We had a panelist earlier this week in which that video for our town hall is up on our website at petracoach.com/blog. There's a whole conversation there about this specifically. So I encourage you to go to petracoach.com/blog. We also have a website that's Petra Coach. You go to petracoach.com, go to resources and hit COVID-19. There's a resource page there. I'll share another resource somehow that we can help you individually answer some of these specific questions that are going to be very unique to what situations you're in and what you're facing. We have a hotline, and it's really a hotline, but it's an email address. So it's a VIP hotline at petracoach.com. If you have any questions at all, thank you for linking that to the town hall in the chat box, Chip. And we'll also put in the VIP hotline at petracoach.com email address. That is manned almost 24/7, and you will get a response. So reach out to us. We want to help. We want to give back. We want to do what we can to help our Petra family and beyond just get through this together. All right, so let's look at opportunities. Opportunities are something that we want to pursue. And I know that this might feel hard right now because all of us are sort of in reaction mode. What trends are you seeing? What opportunities might show up that we could go pursue as an organization? Something that may help us grow faster, to be more profitable or become more valuable. Where do we need to shift our solutions? And who could potentially become a new customer? And I recognize not all businesses are facing the same challenges. Some of us are hurting a lot right now, and some of us have a ton of opportunities because what service or tool we provide is what's in need. So I don't want those who are in full-on defense mode to not be thinking of offense opportunities that you can do right now. So we do not have control over opportunities. They're external to us. We cannot, control them, but what can we go do to work toward them and pursue them? So sharing again about what opportunities we're seeing out there with our Petra members, and I'll shoot it back over to Ryan and Jason to share some of those.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick, Jennifer. So actually, I'm going to share two. One is I work with a company that provides and maintains plants for, interior plants for offices and commercial and retail locations. And going through their strengths, they identified one of their strengths is they're fairly well cash positioned right now in a healthy company, and they have 65 technicians sprinkled throughout their geographic area that they cover. And so they looked at what could they do with these technicians when they're on site maintaining plants, given the current circumstances, and they pivoted slightly to start offering or start offering disinfectant solutions or spraying solutions inside of these office spaces to help keep those locations, healthy and clear of any type of viruses. Additionally, similar to that IT consulting firm I was talking about earlier, they identified that they've done a phenomenal job in helping many of their clients' employees to now work from home. And as many of us are experiencing, they're doing that and seeing kids or pets or spouses in the background when they're doing, Zoom calls or whatever it is with those individuals they're supporting. And they've had some of those people share, hey, you guys are doing great. My husband or my wife, their company has challenges with this and their solution's not as good. Can you help them? And so they've started offering to businesses that they support that have a great remote access solution to their employees' spouses to provide support and help those individuals that are in need that can't work from home. It's helping their clients' employees to be more productive when they're at home because they're not being bugged by their significant other, right? And it also gives them potential leads at a very low cost.
That's great, Ryan. I work with a company that provides triage for workers' compensation claims. And so they work with a lot of different large organizations, school districts, government agencies, and a lot of manufacturing companies. And right now, with people not working or working from home, their claim volume is going down. They've got about 25 nurses that actually work for them to help manage the cases. Well, what they've done is they've completely switched to right now helping companies with addressing the coronavirus within their organization. So they're helping people who have people that are having it, have come down with it and are confirmed cases. And what are they doing for the rest of the team and supporting the rest of the team? They're also helping to manage all the claims and actually providing information of where people are. And so that they can look and say and understand where pockets are. And they're going ahead and letting other companies in the area know where hotspots are. So they've kind of morphed their business to address this right now as a true opportunity. Another company I work with that is sort of on the border of weakness. It could be a weakness or an opportunity, but one of the things they've done is they've grown so much over the years. They keep having to add office space, and as a result, they're noticing their profitability has been declining. But they were always really resistant to using remote, having people remote. Well, this has forced them to go remote. And now they're looking and saying, wait a minute, maybe this actually does work. So they're already putting in solutions in place to allow their team to work remotely. And he's looking and saying, this could really be a game changer for us from a profitability standpoint long term.
Something I'm seeing here in Tennessee is our distillers are, instead of distilling alcohol, they're making hand sanitizer because they know that there's a shortage. So they have been able to shift very quickly to something that will keep revenue coming, or if they aren't worried about the revenue, they're actually donating hand sanitizer, which I think is pretty cool. So really these opportunities are about your willingness to shift into something else, to not feel so hemmed into what you're doing now, thinking very creatively about how to get around some of these and go pursue them. The adaptive crisis checklist that we went through earlier and this short-term SWOT, that's going to help you start framing your strategy. As we move into understanding your strategy, there are those areas to focus or what you need to be thinking through for opportunities and like a defensive threat strategy. You're going to be able to identify, using these two worksheets that we just shared with you, what your main priorities need to be and how you're going to go plan. So the idea being identifying what you need to go do, assigning an owner to it, getting really clear on what the outcome is you want to see, documenting that plan, and then staying in constant communication with your team. Jason, we were talking earlier beforehand when we were preparing for this, and you were sharing with me that you want your leadership team to be meeting like twice a week to talk about these things. You want to share a little bit about that as we go into our third thing?
Yeah, I think communication right now is by far the most critical. And somebody just asked a question. I'm going to read the question because I think this ties in perfectly. Regarding the social impact of working from home, we've only had the office closed for a week, and it's already obvious people are becoming less invested. It is just a residual stress from the trying times we're going through, or is it something that I'm going to have to worry about long term? This really ties into communication and what your communication looks like. So whatever rhythms you had before, you still need to have, but I would tell you to increase them. So at Petra Coach, one of the things we always talk about is you have to have a daily huddle. Every member of your team needs to be in a daily huddle, and that usually is in the morning. What we're also recommending is having a second one at the end of the day. We've already done it, and we're already seeing the impact of it, because you're right, as somebody wrote, the stress of everything going on. Yeah, the most important thing you can do is keep your team focused. So in the morning huddle, really get to understand what it is, not just what they learned, which is our normal, but also what actually is their daily practice. What are they going to be focused on that day? And at the end of the day, it's much lighter and it can be much shorter. What did you accomplish and how are you doing? Right? Making sure you ask the question of how are you doing? Because checking in with your team to understand where they are. Other things we're hearing about, is people doing lunches together, right? And so doing a video lunch, putting everything on Zoom, and everybody sort of eating together, and that way they can talk and connect. If your team is used to being together, you have to do everything you can to continue to bring them together. So instead of people calling each other, have them use something like Zoom or GoToMeeting or Google Hangouts. Don't just have people picking up the phone and calling. That's what keeps people distance, right? So the more that FaceTime they can see, that's what you need to be doing. And as the leader, one of your roles should be reaching out to your team as much as possible, right? Checking in with them, once again, doing videos, because it's important to see their face, right? Is making sure that you're having those touch points with them so that you can keep people and the team together.
Yeah, something you can do with Zoom too is you can just leave it open, and almost like a phone, you can just call them. If it's plugged up or synced up with their cell phone number, this requires you to make sure you're dressed, right? So we've got to know that anybody could just pop up on your screen at any time, but you have it open, and they can just call and say, hey, just like they can poke your head into your office or, around the cubicle to say hello. That being said, you need to be working from home if you can. I know that not all employees have the ability to go home because they are essential to being in the office. We have a few team members that are working in the office with Petra. The majority of us are used to working from home or on the road because we travel a lot across the country, and even more of us are at home now. So if you are able to work from home, make sure that your team knows that they can, and provide them with the tools that they need to be successful with that. Making sure that you have Zoom set up, that they have laptops, that maybe they need earbuds so that they can drown out, the kids or the dogs or something like that when they're on calls. Ryan, you have anything to add to that?
It ties in a bit to what Jason said about maintaining your current communication rhythms and amplifying or accelerating them, if you will. We often have our CEOs or leadership teams record a weekly update and send it to the entire organization. It's just a phenomenal tool that employees use and look forward to and rely on every week. Well, now those updates are happening. They're shorter updates, of course, but they're happening daily, where I have organizations where the president will record a COVID-19 update every single morning. It may only be a minute or two on a video, and then distribute that throughout the entire organization. It's an effective way to do two things. As more people are working remotely, we get to see each other. People get to see him every single morning, which just helps with that engagement and that reminder that, yeah, we're still working, as the last individual asked via the chat. The second thing is, it really keeps people abreast on all these changes, because things are changing at the very least every day, if not on an hourly basis. So we need to make sure that we're having these pulses of communication and distributing them throughout the organization as much as possible.
I love the idea of a video, a daily update in the morning from the CEO being shared. That way, if you're relying on cascading huddles, meaning you have a smaller huddle that starts and then it cascades throughout the organization in smaller groups if you have a larger team. A lot of people use cascading huddles. You don't play the telephone game with the message that started at that first huddle. So that message stays consistent from the CEO. And, again, it's just so important for the CEO to lead like they've never led before right now, to have so much transparency with what's going on in the business. Because going back to culture and people feeling disengaged, that's one of the reasons why. They don't feel like they know what's going on. People are scared right now. And as a CEO and leader, you can be part of helping them feel better about it.
Yeah, it's really important to remember to continue to live your core values and core purpose. Do not forget them. Do not lose sight of them. You might have to adjust how you're executing on living those, but come up with new ways and say, how are we going to do this? How do we still deliver? How do we still keep our team together, living our core values? It's still extremely important.
Yeah, I'm also seeing, people are having to figure out how to communicate with each other now. When you could just pop around the corner or pick up the phone and dial an extension, we have different tools. So we talked about Zoom already. You can leave that open, making sure that you're not talking on the phone, but talking face to face. A lot of teams are using Slack and communicating that way. So, at what point you need to be able to explain and communicate what communication tool to use and when. If it's super important, pick up the phone and call me. Do we have group text for Teams? Are we putting it in Slack? And if it's urgent, how do I need to get to someone? I think that's super important too, because it seems like something small, but it's a big shift in transparency and communication for your teams. Something else to think about is just when it comes to meetings and communication. What are we doing right now and what needs to be adjusted? And then again, this is something we're going to live in. We're going to have to shift a little bit and it might change day to day. Well, gosh, it didn't work for us to do that. So let's do this and then communicate on if it's working or not. Any thoughts on that, team? I feel good about communication. I think it's going to be dynamic. It's going to be ever changing. You'll get into the flow. That being said,
I'll just say, Jennifer, something my wife always says to me, which is you cannot communicate enough, because clearly I don't do that. So I would tell you to over-communicate. It will help your team tremendously. This is your time as a leader to lead. One of the things we always say is, everyone wants to be a lion until they have to do lion shit. Well, go out and be a lion.
Yeah, I think part of that communication too is asking really good questions. So, one thing that I've learned is that communication looks like circles and squares. If I describe a square to you, you're going to hear a circle the first time I say it, especially if we're remote and not standing face to face, or I'm shooting it off in an email. And then communication is not me just like tossing the ball to you and walking away. We still have to play catch. So if I describe a square, you hear a circle, you ask me questions, I describe my square again. You might hear an oval this time, and then you ask more questions and I say, this is my square, and then we're both on the same page. So we have to be able to play catch with this communication. So if you guys are having trouble with communication or need help with huddles, that email hotline, VIP hotline at petracoach.com, we can help you through that. So if you like this webinar, as we're coming to the top of the hour, and I want to be mindful of our time, as we close, if you liked this, we do have more webinars scheduled. And the next one, I believe, is next Monday. Let's see if I can get there we go, slides to work. Next Monday at 11 a.m. Central Time, John Spence is going to be joining us to talk about piloting in turbulence, how to effectively lead during times of confusion. And we have more webinars coming up. These webinars will all be saved on our resource page at petracoach.com. And if you want to attend those live and ask questions, you can certainly do that. But know that these are coming to you via recording as well. We've also partnered with our friend Oksana, who is leading meditation online and mindfulness sessions multiple times a day. So if you or your team is starting to feel like amped, stressed out, This is a fantastic way to join. This is completely free. The link is below here on your screen at the bottom right, where anybody can just jump on that Zoom and join Oksana. You can also, like I said before, you can find resources on our website. We're going to be sharing this recording and the worksheets that we shared today with every single person that registered. So be on the lookout for that. That will be emailed to you as soon as we can get the recording up. And you can also sign up for our emails. We have a lot of great stuff there too. Do you guys have anything that you want to close with? Do you feel good? Covered a lot today.
Yeah, I think it's great content, and I think it's the importance is having the conversations and focusing on the specificity. So I found that in almost every instance, people are hesitant to think through these things at first, and then once we sit down and start to talk through them, the end result is relief. So going through the process of planning, having that conversation, focusing on the specific strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat, and then what we're going to go do is just really, it's more critical now than ever before.
Yeah, and my big thing is focusing on the communication with your team. You cannot over communicate enough. Add a second daily huddle at the end of the day. It will prove results, making sure you're checking in with your team regularly, doing as many calls as many connection points on video versus just a phone call is highly recommended also.
Yeah. Thanks for those closing thoughts. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Yeah.
I've got one quick thing. Anna asked, this mindfulness Zoom opportunity, can we open that to all team members, not just our leaders? And I would say, not only can you, I would encourage you to. So that is available to all team members in your organization. It's a Zoom call, you jump on, and Oksana leads you through a short meditation practice. And we've set it up so there's multiple times throughout 7 days a week. So that's available to anybody that can jump on.
Yeah, you could go with anybody. You could be a friend. Anybody that you feel needs it and can benefit from it, which everybody can. And she's amazing. Highly recommend it.
Yeah. We all have worked with Oksana for a while. Ryan has used Oksana as a coach for meditation. Something that we really need to think about as we are starting to sit at home more and we're in rapidly changing environments, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, staying healthy, getting outside as much as you can, getting some fresh air. So I'd encourage you guys to do that for sure. Team, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys attending. And let us know if we can do anything at all for you. We're here to serve our community and share what we can. Thanks for attending today.